afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's Middle East and Africa Forum for Sustainability Leaders podcast, where we take a deeper dive into this massive push towards sustainability that we're seeing across the region, trying to uncover some intelligence and insights for those who are leading that push ahead. We're joined here today with our special guest speaker, Manal Hassan, who's the Group Chief Sustainability Officer of El Sawaidi Electric and Vice Chairman of the El Sawaidi Electric Foundation. Thank you very much for joining the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Brian.
I just wanted to first kick off, as we know that there's some organizations that are at different parts of this journey. Some are starting, some are closer towards, let's say, the end. But from your perspective, what is the role of a Chief Sustainability Officer? And when was that first identified in terms of implementing that role in your organization?
That's a very good question. I believe the Chief Sustainability Officer post should be given to someone with the business acumen and someone like an economist, maybe someone in finance, because mainly sustainability depends completely on the money the companies are willing to spend in order to do their decarbonization and digitalization. All this costs money, so it needs someone that has this business acumen, like how to budget, how to do risk at time that there are risk management or lack of liquidity or whatever the economic will push on the company. So I think it's a very important role because it complements the strategy of the company. You want to make sure that your company's strategy is aligned with the global economy. It's not just, you want to do something out of it and you think it's great and it's profitable, and then you end up, losing the business. And I think the problem when the word sustainability first came to surface. It wasn't really sustainability. I mean, I'll take you back a little bit. In the year 2000, it was mainly the Millennium Development Goals.
And it's a constantly changing definition.
Exactly. So when they said, what we want to do in the next millennia, so what they did is people understood it as a new direction of how the aid was going to be given, like a CSR kind of an agenda rather than a holistic approach of how everybody should be performing. And with the rise after that in the 2000 of the competitive index from the World Economic Forum, and countries are being ranked in that index from everything, even to the slightest detail, as the quality of roads, for example, to give guidelines to investors whether to invest in this country or not. They found that like a lot of companies are really just saying, we're a great company, we're donating a lot of money, we're doing good for humanity. And that was not really the alignment that they wanted. So they changed it to sustainable development goals, and by 2014, 2015, still didn't really, people didn't understand it. And you've had like great economists talking about it, but on the business, on the ground, companies and even banks didn't even know what was the requirement. So that's why we were late. I mean, when they did the Millennium Goals, they wanted this to happen in 2020. So, it was a lot of political unrest during that time. So they gave a deadline to 2030. And of course, we've seen the Paris Agreement, and we've seen, a lot of, declarations, a lot of resolutions that came out of a lot of the COPs. And I think a lot of the business globally started to pick up on what is coming and what, business is going to be looking like. Not long ago, surprisingly, maybe like, I'm going to be optimistic and say like, 10 years ago, but to be honest, I think maybe like not 6, 7 years ago, when people businesses took sustainability really, really seriously and began to know how it's going to threaten their business. The role that El Sawaidi Electric was identified, and I think because we are a listed company and we work globally in all the continents. So when our board and CFO and IR and CO meet people, then they hear about the word sustainability. Do you have a sustainability strategy? Are you doing a carbon, decarbonization strategy? Are you? So that's when the role, began to be important. And when I first got hired, I'm an economist myself, so I didn't want and this is my advice to anyone, I did not want it to be a department. It's not a responsibility of one person. It is or a department. No, it's a DNA
It's
in the company.
embedding the entire DNA
Exactly.
throughout the culture of the
Exactly.
company.
So the way I did it is to take it slow. And I wanted to, like my great professors, they always say, Manal, when you want to explain something to someone, make sure it's stupid proof. Anyone will understand it. Anyone will understand it. If one person doesn't understand it, then you're doing something wrong. So that's how I did it. I
That's
went
kind of
down.
a big challenge, as you see a lot of
It is.
CSOs in their own space. But
It
when you
is.
create a sustainability strategy and you're trying to implement that culture, it's how do you communicate that internally so you don't lose interest?
Exactly. So the way I did it, I went back to basic economic, and I wanted to do it as a storytelling, the history of economics. So I started to say, the world before, we had communism and socialism and capitalism, and started from there. And I took it briefly as a story rather than them seeing a PowerPoint presentation and all of that. And then I said, well, here's what we're going to have to do. You guys are a huge company. And we're going to do our first sustainability report by just me collecting data. That's it. And we're going to see where we stand, and we do a gap analysis. So our first report was done, GRI guideline with the UN GC publication, so that because we have a lot of data to be collected at that stage. So I just wanted to see what the company looks like, and that's what I advise everyone. Don't go full GRI report, because you'll be disappointed, and people will not cooperate if they don't understand. Just go to the basic reporting first in order for you to do the gap analysis. And then after I did the gap analysis, I sat, because our department is me. That's it. That's it. It's just me. I'm the CSO. Under me, I have my CSR arm, and I have my sustainability arm, just two people under me, and that's it. But the whole corporate and labors and everybody, they know me because I work with them closely.
How do you set up that corporate governance? Yeah, it is a small department, but do you have focal points across all functions?
That's what I did. I created leaders in every cornerstone in every department. I may have two leaders in the factories and on the blue collar level. I had people everywhere, and I tell them, if you really work hard and you read and you're passionate about, you'll have the word sustainability added to your title. So you might walk in and you find sustainability quality assurance, then that's our leader. So that's what encouraged a lot of people to come on board. And my second advice is never push too hard. They will come around, and you should not make them feel uncomfortable as if they're doing something wrong and they're going to be punished for it. Because when you talk about gap analysis, they're like, so that means I'm not really doing well my job. I mean, am I like missing something here? Will this affect my raise, my bonus, my HR scale? What's going to happen to me? So you first have to go very slowly, and you say, what, this is the gap analysis related to the industry or the department. This is my high priority, this is my medium, and this is my low priority. And offer them all the low hanging fruits, and tell them, these are low hanging fruits. Once you're done with them, that's it, that you will improve your performance. And then give them time to read it, understand it, ask questions, come back to you and tell you their feedback. Their feedback is important because they're the owners. CSOs are not the owners. The factory or the department that you're getting your data from are the owners. So they can come back to me and they have all the list, and they say, what, we can finish this in 3 days, in 3 days, because it's easy. But this, it will take us 3 years to finish. I'm like, it's okay. I don't mind. We can wait 3 years. It's fine. But if you're able, as you go along, maybe now you're seeing it today, it's taking you 3 years, but maybe, when you get your hand to it, you might find yourself finishing it in two. So whenever you finish it, just let me know. And I let them do their own timeline, no matter, like, sometimes they would stretch, I'll give it to you after 6 months. And I know it could be done in a week. Okay, but I don't tell them that I know. I just sit there and say, fine, I'll get it after 6 months. I'm okay with that. So when they find that you are a good listener and that you are a team player, you're part of the team. I'm a support function. I am not the CSO. I'm a support function. Um, then they came along, and I was very, 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 very impressed. A lot of the checkpoints, they checked in frameworks. I mean, like our scores improved on CDP, on Ecovatus, on Sustainalytics, on all the platforms that we are required, or businesses, let's say, not just us, businesses are required to showcase their data. We're improving our scores year after year. And now everybody's like, you know what? I thought of an idea. We could do this and this and this in the factory, and it will do this. I see factories coming and saying, you know what? We're going to do an in-depth resource audit. We're going to get somebody so that they can advise us more on how to even decrease our carbon emission. I'm seeing people going, with doing their masters in sustainability or getting a diploma in sustainability, and they take Sweetie as an example. And to me, just feeling that we are part of the education ecosystem, not only for our employees, but for companies across Egypt, is something that just makes us happy, because you cannot succeed alone. They are my supply chain, they are my partners. We have projects together. We may seem to the outside that we're competitors, but actually, no, a lot of projects we're doing together. We work with Siemens, we work with Enel, Schneider, we work with multinationals, we work here in Egypt with a lot of major Egyptian companies. So we need, to make sure that we're working together, moving towards sustainability, and as well pulling our supply chain. Because if my carbon emission right now is good, okay, but because I'm trying to work with my supply chain on scope 3. But if my supply chain in scope 3 is not going to do the work, I'm going to have to import, and that's
And
another.
scope 3 is pretty far advanced right now at the moment for a lot
Exactly.
of stakeholders.
Exactly. And next year we're going to be reporting, globally, they're requiring us now. There are a lot of talks of us doing scope 4 as well.
Oh wow, jeez.
Yeah. So,
So
yeah,
sprinting along essentially.
exactly. Things are going fast, especially with the CBAM and all of that. So that's how the creation of this position, it grew. First, when I was hired as the sustainability director, and then they saw that I did like good milestones with the company, so I was promoted to being the chief sustainability officer. That's how it goes. I wasn't just plug and play chief. I was first
With it,
director chief.
within that position, of course, to implement your strategy, to establish the roadway ahead, essentially, you have to get essentially leadership buy-in to that. Obviously, you have people and planets, but of course, you have energy security, you have profit, and sustainability. It can be a mixture of all those. What would you advise other CSOs and your colleagues in terms of trying to establish that buy-in from the leadership level that allows for this timeline, this roadway to prosper, essentially, in your strategy that you've implemented?
First of all, they have to walk into the boardroom or into any meeting knowing that sustainability is a cost center. It is not a center that brings revenue. It does, of course, when you have an amazing strategy and so on. Some might be short term, or some might be an investment that you want to do, but it will be a long term, investment. So it's the ROI. So definitely they have to be doing a very watching this thin red line, where they don't make the decision makers feel that sustainability is at the cost of profitability. Because the first thing that they will get, they'll be like, okay, so you want us to spend, say, X amount of millions of dollars on this, then we need to cut off on the labors. We will need to fire people. We will not do digitalization. We will not do this. At the end of the day, it's about your net profit. Okay, so definitely when you enter, you have to walk into the room with exactly what you want to ask for. So if it's something that must be done today, then it has to be done today. So don't go and talk about a lot of topics. So like for us, when I walked into the board, I said, you know what, we need to decarbonize our manufacturing products. That's my main goal right now. And they're like, why? I said, because if you look at our profitability and you look at our finance, you see that 55% of our revenue comes from manufacturing. So we are a top cable exporters. So we need to focus on that because that is a very important pillar. So we need to start there. And I don't want a lot. We want to start by doing 1, 2, 3, 4. I could do this within the next 3 years. Now you put the figure next to this number. So tell me this year, Manan, you will have this amount of money for this cause. Next year we'll give you this. The following year we'll give you this. Is this enough for you to reach? And I'll be like, yes, can negotiate and so on. So don't overwhelm decision makers, especially if you work in countries that might have a lot of changes, for example, or maybe regulation, laws. I mean, depends how advanced you are in that country. And, you have to really make sure your priorities are straight. So if, for example, I have $1,000 and that will eliminate, for example, 5 tons of CO2, but I have $1,000 and somebody comes and say, do the waste management. And I find, for example, the waste management will only eliminate 200. Of course, I'm not going to go to that. I'm going to give the money to the guy that's going to remove 1,000 for me. So you have to, that's why I'm saying it's all about economics. You've got to have this business sense of how you're going to work so that no matter how little or how big the money that you are getting, you are able to really employ it and employ it correctly. And for us, like, I really focus more on the E because I already taught the S quite well to the HR. So when they walk in and say, we want to do training because we need to improve the numbers of people that are, their know-how and something. And we're going to focus next year on, getting a lot of the people like second line management or potential second line management. We want them to get Harvard degrees. So we're going to, so that's out of my budget. So I don't have to walk into the boardroom and say, we need to focus on our, social fact, because that's wrong. That's not,
Yeah.
I need to focus on what's going to bring the money. Digitalization, why we have to invest in that. And that costs a lot of money, to digitalize the process. That is a lot of money, your Oracle, your SAPs, your Microsoft. And if you've got like other softwares for energy saving, whether you got them from, Microsoft or IBM or Schneider or whatever, these costs a lot of money. Digitalization costs a lot of money. It's not something, some people might say, you know what, no, you want me to pay like $5, $6 million right now? It's easy to still use paper or Excel sheets than to use that. So definitely my advice is, please, before, so that you don't discourage them. If you walk in and say, for you to go into being green, you need to spend $500 million, they're going to fire you. But be smart. You know that you will need the $500 million, then take it, cut it to pieces, and distribute the pieces, distribute the piece that needs the HR, distribute the pieces for the compliance. Let them put it on their budget. Distribute pieces on the manufacturing, on the factories. Distribute a piece to the financial sectors, to the legal department, so that you can end up not looking, like you're spending a lot of money, but they have it in their budget.
And it's not a full sprint, right? This is a process in
It's
itself.
a huge process. It's a
I
huge.
just wanted to touch on external communications. With economics, monitoring, sustainalytics, there's a sense of transparency and accountability there. Externally, what do you see the role of transparency and accountability? Of course, you see headlines of greenwashing. That definition, of course, changes every day as well. But how critical is that to your central strategy and your pathway ahead?
Well, what we do is we're a listed company and we're not going to risk publishing something that we don't have. That is something I can, like, from here, I can assure you, like, 1,000,000% that nothing that we have put out there is wrong. Okay, definitely. And sometime Sustainalytics themselves, we do the surveys that they send us on all of that. They do interviews, which is something maybe a lot of people don't know. It's not about that you put something out there and they let it go. No, they send you email and they discuss it with you. They discuss with you policies. They discuss with you, like, how did you do it? They might even discuss with you something that they found that you did in an innovative way. And they were like, a lot of our clients didn't know how to do that. How did you guys do it? And I'd be like, what we did one, two, three, four. This is how we do it. And they're like, that's a great idea. Some of these frameworks, they might interview. ISS might send you, OCUM, ISS OCUM, they might send you another survey. And then they tell you the reason why we contacted you is because we know we've seen it and we know and we've heard you talk about it, but it's not on your website. Then I'm like, really? You guys want us to put that on the website? And they're like, yes, you have to. So we learn as well from, from other people when they ask, because, like, for example, they know that I wrote, for example, in the sustainability report something, but then when they go on the website, they didn't see the policy. Then they're like, could you please put it on the website because it's going to decrease your score. So we found out along the way that everything that's important to you, you have to put it out there. Your carbon emission, it's okay to have carbon emission, high carbon.
So you have to jump in, essentially. It's better to go
Exactly.
for it
It's
as opposed to
okay.
just dipping your
Exactly.
toe in the water.
No, because at the end of the day, when you put a number there about your emission, banks are not going to take what we're not in utopia, and they're going to believe the numbers that we put. Banks, when they come and work with you or partners, they're going to be sending auditors and they're going to be sending consultants. Like, if they're auditing me in Egypt, they're going to send people from Europe. If they're auditing me when I'm in Europe, they're going to be sending people from Asia. And these people are going to open your numbers, and you need to look good in front of these people. I mean, they might not say to the public that these are wrong numbers, but definitely you'll be flagged at the bank for giving wrong data. So, be honest about the numbers. And if something that in a question that you get is something that you don't have or you didn't start, just say it's work in progress. We will do it, but we're not there yet. If you would have interviewed me, for example, 3 or 4 years ago, and you say, Manal, do you have an ESMS system, for example? I would tell you it's in the pipeline. We don't have it today, but we're planning to have it in 3 years or 4 years time. So it's okay. What people don't understand, you're gonna be you're gonna be flagged if you're not telling the truth, but you're gonna be respected if you're gonna say it's work in progress or we're working on it. It will be delivered, but not today because we have other things that are on our table that needs to be done before we reach this point. Then that will get you a better score than you not being honest about it. I mean, this is how we cannot take risk, because our labor is the most important. Our blue collars are our backbones. We need to protect them. We need to protect our investors because it's their livelihood and it's their investment, and we want to have the continuity of business. So beating around the bush or doing something that is, foul play is not good for any company in general.
I just want to touch on that labor point and shift a bit. You know, obviously you've come from an economics background. There's education programs out there on sustainability that are constantly evolving, certification programs. What's your best advice to youth in terms of developing the skills that are needed to become a leader like yourself? And also, how can education tweak academia and curriculum to be more aligned with industry on sustainability? Because it's changing every year. It's very hard to keep up in that space.
Well, I'm going to tell them you're luckier than we are because, uh, you know, I mean, I graduated from university June 90. So maybe some of our listeners might have been born in the 2000s. Okay. So I graduated a long time ago where we actually had to hit the books and go to the library when we didn't have any internet. Um, Now what we're seeing is an upgrade in all the curriculum in universities. Like we're seeing universities that now have something called sustainable architect in engineering school. We're seeing like sustainability being a cornerstone in every major right now. Whether it is in finance, you become an ESG analyst, so you need to have a financial background in order to do that. Or you're becoming, in the environment, we're seeing a lot of different things: energy management system, sustainable energy engineer in energy, or in waste management. Titles of the job even changed. So definitely for anyone that's listening, what do not jump on the boat of sustainability if you are not passionate, or if you don't know what your passion is about it. Maybe you would like to do sustainable communication, where sustainable marketing, which is a very serious problem, by the way, and people are not noticing. A lot of us actually have to write our own social. I have to do the social media post myself because I understand the terminology and I understand how to do it and how to write, and I correct. So, marketing department now need to teach people how to get the info out of the reports and out of all of that in order, to do the publications or to write an article about it and so on. So we're seeing slowly but surely a lot of people are getting into it. There is now a complete major. I was very surprised. A friend of mine, his daughter went to Berkeley and she's major sustainability. That's it. And I was like, really? Now it's just a complete,
Wow.
full-fledged major? He's like, yeah, she's in Berkeley studying sustainability. That's her, that's the major. So I need to
That's
dig
a
more.
pretty broad major as well.
Exactly. Yeah, right. And Berkeley, come on, that's an Ivy League school as well. So I was like, I need to go in and search like what are they giving in this. So definitely, if you're still in school, if you're still like in uni, definitely get on that and just begin to read. Maybe you would like the S part of it. Maybe if you're a lawyer, you'd like the governance part of it. Maybe you'd like, if you're in finance, this. So get on that. And after that, knowledge is power. Certify yourself, even if you don't get a certificate, by taking online courses and just going and reading and listening to other people. Read sustainability reports of companies so that you can even know which company you're more passionate about. Do you want to work in the manufacturing? Would you like to go for agriculture sustainability? Do you want to work in urban development sustainability? Which part are you really passionate about? And do not, please save your money. Don't go do your master's unless you've been at least working in the market for 4 to 5 years. Because when
Practical
university,
learning, right? Versus
exactly,
theoretical.
university is gonna give you like all these like things that maybe are beneficial and maybe that they're useless for you. That you just a check in the box for you to graduate. But when you go on the real workforce, you can afford to change job every 6 months, by the way. When you graduate, you can afford that because you're still discovering what you're passionate about. After 4 years, you really know what really you'll have a diverse experience, and you know what you want. Just then go for your masters if you want. But if not, continue taking courses. That's it. I mean, my father, God rest his soul, and he always says any donkey can have a master's degree but never a PhD.
Mm.
PhD is different because you've got to be innovative and you've got to do your research and so on. But
And know where
master,
you want to go and
exactly. But
specialize in.
masters, it's like donkey work. You just have to study and just pass the exam and blah blah blah. So also, if it's not about putting a degree right behind you saying I've got a master in sustainability or an MBA or an
But you
MSc or
may need those to check off the box, though, for positions
exactly,
at the end of
but
the
not
day.
at an early age.
Right.
Not at an early age. I did my master's I think I was like maybe 37 years old.
Mm,
I graduated from uni when I was 20. So I did my master's 17 years after I was in the workforce, because in 2007, that's when sustainability was just, beginning to rise. So I needed to update my knowledge. So I
right.
needed to have that master. But definitely, I didn't do it, early on. I could have done my, master's of economics or an MBA, but I didn't feel the need for it because I didn't want to be a university professor. I wasn't going to do my PhD. So basically, I did my master's in international economics and I did another one in structural development.
Well,
And I did it because I just, I became very passionate about, being business minded and oriented. I wanted to actually just update the new regulations and new theories, Robert Chamber and Fukuyama and all these people, Joseph Stiglitz. You have to, you just go and
you
you
need to
read.
have that access to that journey. The real adulting starts after university, where you're
Exactly.
trying to figure out which pathway you want to take forward. And
Yeah.
like you said, passion, it plays a big part if you want to go on the sustainability journey.
Oh,
Um,
definitely.
just 30 minutes goes by pretty quick, but we just wanted to wrap up with one final comment. I just wanted to take it back. We discussed kind of weird times at the beginning currently. We see the narratives on climate change every day. Society plays a role in this process as well, right? It's the third kind of pillar to the stool. When you look at climate change, it looks like such a massive challenge to tackle, where many just individuals are wondering, how can I make an impact? What would your advice be on that in terms of how to approach it and kind of where to start from your perspective?
I see that the new generations are more cautious of climate change. Their access to knowledge is huge and faster. I'm very proud of the young generation, all those below 35. I give you because you're doing an amazing job. You are much better than our generation. You don't waste as much. You like to purchase green products and green labels and recycled material. And I see a lot of entrepreneurs that in the space of resource efficiency and so on. And I think this generation is much better educated than we were growing up. Definitely. It starts from a young age, it starts from school. We need to integrate the importance of climate change in elementary school and middle school and high school, and so that it becomes part of the culture of the young kids as they are growing up, that this is how they want to live. Climate change is a serious issue. It is to the extent I read an article that countries in the EU now are thinking of giving a quota of carbon emission to a citizen. So, even if you want to travel from one place to another, you have to take a permit and it takes off from your quota of carbon emission. So if you want to go,
Wow.
for example, from you're in the UAE, so I'm going to say from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, you take permission. You're allowed only to emit, say, 10,000 ton, for example, per month. So if you want to go do that trip, that takes off 2,000. So you might need to decrease your meat consumption or your uses of your car and so on, so you don't exceed. We're seeing headlines like airlines are asking for flights under an hour or an hour and a half to have a stand-up area. People don't need to sit, and to decrease the emission further, that they're going to have the bathroom paid. You have to pay to use the bathroom, so people just don't randomly walk in and waste. I mean, we're seeing a lot of innovative ideas, and definitely it's a very serious issue for humanity to survive. I mean, droughts are going to come. We're already seeing a lot of tsunamis. We're seeing volcanoes, and we're seeing hurricanes. I mean, even in Egypt, which was really funny, in August we had rain. I swear to God. So we were sitting on the beach and we had rain. This never happened. I've been living here for a long time. I can assure you, I can definitely not in August where you're going to see rain. And we were showered with, and they even have names for it. So it was called Daniel. I think Daniel passed. And however, it came lightly on Egypt, but in Libya, it destroyed it.
Mm.
I mean, in Derna, 80 the water was as high as a six-story building
Wow.
in August, and we're supposed to be desert. You come to, I mean, you live in Dubai, so you know what I'm talking about.
Well,
We're
I'm from California, or Southern
oh,
California
okay,
originally,
and
and we had our first tropical storm in 100 years this summer. So
yeah, there you go. And like California, because of the heat, we're always on alert for the fire, and
yeah,
and it's just
fire or flooding now
or
as well.
flooding. Exactly. So definitely, I mean, like me growing up, I saw in Egypt the four seasons, the winter, the fall, and the spring and the summer. Right now, I'm not.
Stripped.
No, I'm seeing summer and like two relatively good weather months, and then just maybe a few days of severe cold. I'm not
Oh,
seeing
wow.
anymore. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's so it is serious, definitely.
Well, thank you very much, Manal, for taking the time and, of course, sharing your insights. Very useful for our community. For all those who are listening, watching, please feel free to follow Manal on social media to follow her journey, of course, with the organization's doing and to engage there. And of course, Gulf Intelligence, where we'll be publishing this podcast and the content harvested from it. But thank you very much, Manal. We appreciate your time and
Thank
look
you so
forward to
much.
having you back on this series again in the future.